Hey guys, I'm AJ with Park Industries. Today we're going to go over how to remove a belt drive spindle. So in the interest of time, I want to make this video as short as possible. I already have the air cylinder removed. The drawbar is out. If you need help with those components, there's a link below. Click on that, that should help you. So let's get right into this. So the first thing I like to do here is there's a sensor on this spindle. Now, once you get rolling, it's really easy to forget that. So I like to unhook that first. So I'm going to go in here and cut this zip tie. And then I'm just going to disconnect it. Now I like to tape that cable to the shaft here. So I'm going to take that cable up so it doesn't get damaged. So here's how I like to tape up the cable. I just take some duct tape and get it kind of wrapped around the spindle shaft here. Just whatever you can do to prevent that from being loose and getting caught on something as you're pulling out the spindle will help quite a bit. The next thing is to clean around the collar area. And I can't stress this enough. This is really important to get this area clean right here by this collar and right up here by this collar. If you don't clean that well enough and you have some scale and grit on there, that can be pulled into this collar area, and when you're pulling the spindle out, it'll get wedged in there, and then it becomes very, very difficult to get the spindle out. So it's really critical to clean right around this collar area here and this one right up here. So I'm going to do that and we'll get back with you. So I have the area around the collar cleaned up really well here. We'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. It's this, the most critical area is from this white surface up to this first ledge where the diameter is the largest. So you want to really clean up that area well. Same thing right up here on this collar. You want to clean from this white surface up to that first ledge and get that area really, really clean. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is loosen up the tension off the belt. So we're going to loosen the motor mounting bolts. I already have the two on the other side loose, so we'll crack these two loose. And then we'll push the motor back, take the tension off the belt. Get those loose. Just push that motor back and then you'll be able to feel that the belt is nice and loose. Next step is to remove the air lines from the spindle. Once those are off, we can pull off the water ring from down below. So I'm going to remove the lines off the water ring. And then we'll take the water ring off. From here, we got to remove some silicone from the bolt heads. There's some silicone in here to protect them so that they don't get all rusted up. So we got to peel some of that out. What I like to do is take just a small screwdriver and go right around the outside. And then you can kind of peel that right out. Now there's two set screws, one right here and one on the other side right here. We're going to go ahead and remove those. Now those two threaded holes that the set screws came out of, we're going to use those to help us pull the spindle out. So in this kit that Park sends, there are two threaded rods. So we'll grab those out. And we're going to thread those in to the holes. Next, there should be some nuts in here. We got two nuts with a little flange on them and two longer, skinnier nuts. We'll take those out. So what I like to do here is I'll take the long one, thread that on first. And then we'll take one of these flange nuts and we'll thread that one on right below it. So now that I have my nuts on here, I'm just going to take and tighten them into each other. So what I like to do next is get some 2x4s, kind of lay them out like this, and then we can take the Z-axis and lower it down till we're about 1/8 of an inch away from the wood. So we'll just lower that down till we're about right there, about 1/8 of an inch away, and we can start taking out our mounting bolts. All right, now we have our 4 mounting bolts out of the spindle. So I'm going to take a 1/2 inch wrench on this bottom nut here and start tightening up each threaded rod. And what that's going to do is start to pull the spindle out of this housing. So we'll work a little bit on each side. And we'll get that spindle to start being pulled out. Now if the spindle's really fighting you and you're just not able to pull it out with the threaded rods, there's another option. Park has this pusher plate that you can put on right up here where the air cylinder came off. You use your air cylinder bolts to tighten that down. So put all 4 in there, tighten it down. Then there's an aluminum cap that goes over your spindle shaft to protect it. And you can use the hydraulic jack that came with the Titan to actually push the spindle out. So you're kind of making your own hydraulic press here. It's kind of tricky to get this hydraulic jack in there, but the trick is to have the couplings facing towards you like this and come in like this at an angle. Kind of want to get it up positioned like that. And then it'll just fall into place. So from there you can jack your spindle out. So as you're working each side here and pulling the spindle out, you'll want to keep an eye on the drive keys here. If they start digging into the wood, just go ahead and grab your pendant and Z up a little bit. So we'll just raise that Z up a little bit, and then we'll continue working each side, pulling the spindle out. So once we get the spindle out about this far, it'll be loose. And at that point you can start using the Z travel, move it up, and the spindle will stay stationary. So we're going to do that here. Just going to Z up real nice and slow. And then once we get to about that point, what I like to do is start pulling out some of these blocks. I don't like this spindle being up so high. In case something goes wrong, I don't want it to fall off several blocks. So I'm going to grab a set of blocks here and a pry bar, and I'm just going to start taking some of these blocks out. Just kind of work your way down. So from this point on, it's kind of a 2-man operation. It helps if one guy can hold the spindle and the other guy can drive the Z-axis up. So Dave's going to hold and I'll drive it up. We'll just drive this Z all the way up to the top until it stops. Now from this point, you got to have 2 guys to kind of slide this spindle out. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of slide it out. So now with the spindle out, we're going to take and clean these collars. So we'll just take a rag, wipe out everything from this lower collar, same thing on the upper one, and we're also going to want to clean the flange right down here. So that's it for removal of the belt drive spindle. If you guys need any help with installation, click on the link below. Have a good day.